Welcome to Prince William County's new ePortal system, also known as Citizen Self-Service or CSS. In this video, we're going to demonstrate how the new ePortal system works and all of its new features. When you first log in, the first thing you're going to notice is a set of notifications scrolling across near the top. This is a new feature which will allow the county to put out notifications to our citizens that we feel are important for them to know and read. The nice thing about the notifications is you can pause it at any time by clicking the pause key. You can use the arrows to move forward through the notifications and then read them. You can go forward or backwards, and then you can click on the play key and it'll start scrolling through each of the notifications again. I'm going to go ahead and pause it. The other interesting thing about the home screen is there's these big buttons in the front. There's 9 of them. When you click on each one, it links you to a different part of the application. And in some cases, it links you outside of the application. So for example, this first button on the left, if you click on it, you go to the search screens. If you go to the one in the middle, you go to the application screen. And the one on the right is login screen. So each of these buttons will take you to a different area. Now let's go over the menu items at the top here. We've started out at home. You'll notice that we're not logged in because we're still listed as guest in the top right-hand corner. So this is what you're going to see when you're not logged in. After the home screen, there's the application screen. If I were to go in there, it would make me log in to apply for a permit. So we'll go there and visit that menu when we've actually logged in. The next menu item is the maps. So if we click on that, it will take you to Prince William County. It zooms into the center point of the county, but you can then search for any address you're interested in searching for. Please enter just the street number and the street name. Don't use street type or units. So once you've typed in what you're looking for, just click the search button and it should zoom you in fairly close to where that parcel is. You can also scroll down into that area to get a little bit closer to that parcel. Okay. So as you can see, it puts a little bubble pinpoint to the parcel you were searching for. On the left side, you'll see the parcel number and the owner information, as well as information about that particular parcel related to the number of permits, plans, inspections, etc. And if I click on any of these categories and scroll down, it'll actually list all of those items. So as I'm defaulted here by the listed, I'm pointing to the permits. So if I scroll down, I'm actually seeing permits here. And I can click on any permit number and it'll open up that permit. Another new feature of the map is that I can select a group of parcels and it'll give me the summary information of those parcels that I've selected. How do I do that? Well, you click on this little button that looks like 2 arrows circling. If I click on that, it lets me select either a point, a line, a polygon, or a circle. So I'm going to go ahead and pick a line. And then you go to the map and you draw that line. It'll highlight the parcels that line intersects. And you'll see the addresses related to those parcels over on the left. If I select any one of those addresses, it will provide me with the information of the number of permits and plans, inspections, etc. You'll also notice at the top of the list, there is a summary of all the parcels together. So these 4 highlighted parcels together have 10 permits, 5 plans, etc. Which means that this particular address that I've highlighted, 2 of those 10 belong to this address, so the other 8 belong to the other 3. So that's one of the new features of this map. This will be helpful if you're ever driving along and you're seeing construction on a corner of a lot, but you're not sure what the address is. If you come up to the map, find that corner on the map, you can then select that parcel, and then you'd be able to see what permits are related to that parcel and see what's being constructed. The next menu item is something called the fee estimator. This will allow a customer to pretend apply for a permit to find out what the estimated fees are. It will only give you estimated fees on permits that you can apply for online or plans you can apply for online. Right now, we only allow residential trade permits to be applied for online. However, we hope to expand that to other permits and plans in the future. But to get your estimated fees, you click on what you want to get the estimate on, permit or plan. And once the screen comes up, the first thing you want to do is select your permit type. So you want to select the permit that you want to apply for or get the estimated fees for. You fill in any required fields, and a required field will have a red star next to the label name. So let's say we're doing a residential electrical addition, 1,000 valuation. Click next. You don't have to fill in stuff like the code year and the project name and the permit name, etc., because none of that is used to evaluate the fees. But you do need to fill in the other fields that are used to evaluate the fee. So in this case, maybe I'm putting in 5 fixtures. I want to say, how much does an electrical addition with 5 fixtures cost me? It's giving me, it's calculating the fees now, and should give me a estimate in just a second. Again, you can only do this on permits or plans that you can apply for online. Okay, so as you can see, it provided me with an estimated fees, which are subject to change when you actually go to apply. The next menu item across is the search menu. I'm going to go ahead and skip that for now, and we're going to just go into hearings and meetings first. So this is a calendar that will display any public hearings or public meetings for the public to review. So in this case, I have 2 public meetings, or 1 board meeting and 2 other ones down here under the 29th. I don't know why it's not displaying, but there should be, oh, here we go. There's 2. Here is one of them. So this is a PC hearing related to this rezoning case, and as you can see on the right side, it displays information about who the contact person is, what time the meeting is, the location, and so forth. I can also select the case, and it will open up that case in a separate tab. I just clicked on the case, and it should bring up that case. I'll show you what the calendar looks like when you're logged in, because there's additional information it displays when you're logged in that you don't see when you're not logged in. The final menu item is the I want to menu, and it basically has links to other areas within the application. So if I want to apply for a permit, I can click on that and it'll take me to the application screen. If I want to view the planning pending cases map and click on that, it will actually open up another tab and take me outside of the ePortal system to that particular application. And then I can go in here and look through this map. So the I want to menu takes me to other areas within ePortal and outside of ePortal. Okay, so let's go to the search screen next. By default, it searches all modules. So that's why it says all, but I can always change it to permits or to plan or some other module. But let's start with all. It has a field for you to search for information. So I'm going to type in Potomac Mills, and you'll notice that it says exact phrase. You want to make sure that's checked. If that is not checked, what it's going to do is going to find any permit or plan or inspection, etc., that has the word Potomac and then has the word Mills. But if you have it checked, it'll look for anything that has Potomac Mills exact phrase within the permit or plan or inspection, etc. Go ahead and search. Okay, so when it does its search, it searches everywhere on the case. So it searches the description, custom fields, contacts, project name, plan name, anywhere where it finds Potomac Mills as an exact phrase. So it found 44,000 instances or cases that had Potomac Mills in its exact phrase somewhere on the case. You can filter the results a little bit or narrow the results a little bit by selecting the actual module you're interested in seeing. So if I only want to see permits, I can select permits and it'll narrow my results slightly. You can also change the sort. By default, it sorts by relevance, but you can change the sort to permit number or issue date, and or address. There's different ways that you can sort your list or what it found. You can also select the permit number of any of the results, and it'll actually open up that permit in a separate tab. You can also click on this little globe, and what it'll do is it'll jump you over to the maps and zoom into the parcel that this permit or plan is related to. And it'll just zoom right into that parcel. Okay, so that's where the Potomac Mills parcel is, right there. And you can also export this list. So by clicking on the little export button up here, you got to give it a name. And it'll only export the first 1,000 records or the current view. So if your total search results was over 1,000 records, it's only going to give you the first 1,000 unless you narrow that search a little bit more. So you're probably wondering, well, how can I narrow the search? I'll show you. Let's go ahead and cancel out of that. And we're going to change where it's searching in all modules. We're going to change it to just permits. And you'll notice it gives you some fields of information you can search within. In this case, I'm going to put in an address, Potomac Mills, because I only want cases that are on that address. And I only want cases that are issued within a certain time frame. See if we can narrow down the search results here. We're going to just pull things that were issued for Potomac Mills last year. Let's do a search. Okay, so it definitely narrowed down the search. It only found 56 records that had Potomac Mills in the address that were issued last year. So this makes my export a little bit more manageable. It's within 1,000 records. So I would go to export, say okay, and it'll actually export as a CSV file, which you'll be able to open in Excel. So you can see it created a CSV file. I'm not going to open that right now, but let's go ahead and go on with our demo here. The next thing I want to do is that we're going to go ahead and log in. So where it says guest, click on guest and select login. If you've already had an account under the old ePortal system, that same account, username and password, should work under the new ePortal system. If for some reason it doesn't, just click on reset password or email your username, and you'll be able to then log in when you come back to the office here. If you don't have a login at all, you've never used the old system, and you want to create an account for this new system, just go to guest and click on register. It's going to ask you to enter an email, and it'll then email you at your whatever email that you entered. You go there, click on the link that is provided to you in the email, and then you complete your registration information. I'm already registered, so I'm just going to log in. Okay, so when you first log in, you'll notice a couple of new things show up on the menu item. There's a new menu item called Dashboard, and then there's one called View. Let's look at the dashboard first. So the dashboard is a summary of cases that you're linked to. There's a summary of permits, plans, and then inspections, and then you've got your invoices. Let's look at these little circled areas. These are like little buckets. Both the permits and the plans have a bucket called attention. On the permit side, attention is generally things such as rejected inspections. So it's basically letting you know there are 14 cases listed in the attention bucket that have something that needs your attention. And again, in under permits, it's generally your inspections that need some sort of attention. In the plan's attention, it's usually that your plan was rejected or there were comments that you need to address. So there are 10 items in this bucket that need my attention on the plan side. For pending permits are permits you've applied for, which have not been issued yet. And on the plan side, pending are plans you've applied for or linked to, which have not been approved yet. For active, those are active permits, issued permits that you are linked to. And then for active plans, these are plans that have been completed or approved that you are linked to. For permits, there's also something called the draft bucket. So one of the new features of this new ePortal system is that you can apply for a residential trade permit, get halfway through, and save that as a draft and come back to it later to complete the submission. In the old system, if you stopped working on a draft on your permit halfway through and left and closed your browser up and came back to it later, you'd have to start all over again. In this ePortal system, you can save it, come back to it later. And then the recent bucket are cases which have had some recent activity within the last 30 days. Either they were issued in the last 30 days, they had some inspections performed on them in the last 30 days. Some things happened within the last 30 days on these recent cases. In some cases, your recent bucket list will have some cases that appear under active as well as attention, depending on how recent the activity occurred on that case. In the inspection area, it lists all inspections you've requested that you're linked to, all that are scheduled under that you are linked to, and those that have been completed that you're also linked to. And then in the invoice section, it lists all your invoices that are all invoices that were invoiced to you as the customer. So I have 6 invoices that were or fees that were invoiced to me. And I can see the full list by clicking on View My Invoices, and I'll show you that later when we go to Pay for a Permit. The other new menu item is the View menu. If I click on that, you can jump to My Invoices, My Permits, My Plans, My Existing Inspections. I can request inspections, which I'll show you how to do a little bit later. And I can see today's inspections. So today's inspections are if you have a inspection scheduled for today and you want to see in what order your inspection is in. Are you the first inspection? Are you the third inspection? You can go to today's inspections, find out who your inspector is and where you are in his order of inspections. That'll kind of give you an idea of when to expect that inspector. We'll look at that a little bit later as well. The last thing I want to go over before we start a new application is the hearings and meetings calendar. If I click on that again, you'll notice there's additional filter by items on the left. I can now see inspections that are scheduled, plans that are expired, or permits that have expired. As you can see, I've got several inspections scheduled. Here are my hearings and board meetings. And it added another meeting, a special inspections meeting. This is a private meeting. That's why it didn't show up under when we only had public meetings showing. This is a meeting that is only seen by me because I'm associated to this meeting. And it won't be on the calendar unless I am logged in. Okay, so now let's go ahead and apply for a permit. So let's click on apply. By default, when you click on apply, it's going to show you the trending permits. These are permits that you've applied for on a regular basis, so it's kind of trending. You can also see your history, which are all the permits you've ever applied for would be there. But again, let's say that the trending permits does not contain the permit you're looking for. You can click on permits and it'll show you all of the permits, which are quite a few. So if you want to narrow the search results a little bit, you can show categories and then select the category of the inspection that you're trying to apply for. So if I want to apply for a gas permit, I would just select gas and it would narrow my search to just the gas permits. Now, what I'm going to do today, right now, is first apply for a standalone permit. A standalone permit is one that is not linked to a residential building permit. And generally, those are limited alteration repair permits. So let's go ahead and apply for one of those first. And then when we're done with that, we'll apply for one that's linked to a master building permit. So once you've found the permit you want to apply for, click on apply. Okay, the first thing you're required to do when applying for a permit is you have to select a location or search for a location to attach to the permit. So once the screen loads, you'll notice that address is a required item. So you have to put an address or it's not going to let you continue. So click on add location. By default, it wants you to search by address. You can also search by parcel, but most of the time people search by address. So type in the address that you want to create the permit against. Type in the street number and the street name. Don't put street type or units, and then click the search button. Once your address pops up, go ahead and make sure it's the right one and then click add. You'll notice it puts the address on the permit along with the parcel number. Make sure it's still accurate and then click next to continue. It already filled in the permit type because that's what you selected when you went to apply. In the description, enter in the scope of work here. And then you fill in either the square foot and you have to fill in the valuation. Anything that's got a star next to the label is a required field. So for square feet, in this case, it's not required, but the valuation is. Let's go ahead and put in a valuation. By default, it inserts you as the person logged in as the contractor. You cannot remove yourself, but you'll notice that you can add a contact. So let's say you want to add a coworker because he's going to be monitoring this permit for you. So let's go ahead and add the coworker in. First, you select the contact type. In this case, I'm going to just select authorized agent. You don't have to select contractor again because you're going to be the main contractor and these will be associates. And then add contact. And let's search for my coworker. Okay, so I want to add John Doe here to my permit. Notice there's a star next to John's name. If I select the star, it puts John in my favorites, and I'll show you how nice that having a favorites list is to saving you time. In the meantime, let's go ahead and add John to my permit. All right, so now let's go ahead and add one more. This time, I'm going to add somebody out of my favorites. So instead of searching for a name, I'm going to click on my favorites. You'll notice John is now in there. So is Tom. Let's go ahead and add Tom and see how quick that was. So the next time I go to create a permit, John or Tom are already in my favorites. I just have to quickly go in there and add them without having to search for their name. Let's go ahead and click next. Okay, now you need to fill in the case fields for the work that you're doing. So under permit name, we request that you put in the last name of the owner, and then you would normally fill in the plan code book and plan code year. You'll notice there's a couple of fields here that are a little bit different from the typical fields. One is labeled custom field type is not supported. Just ignore that, don't worry. These are usually calculated fields and they'll update inside the application once you've submitted it. The other thing you do need to worry about, and that's the red circled or highlighted field. These are required, so you must fill this in before you can continue. So let's go ahead and do a replacement. We're going to do dishwasher. And then we're going to go ahead and next. Okay, so in this screen, this is for attachments. Now, under normal circumstances, you're not going to be attaching anything. But it does allow you to attach something in case there's an emergency. You need to submit something that is critical to whatever application you're. However, because we normally don't expect attachments, please make sure you contact the Department of Development Services, Building Development Division, and let them know that you put an attachment in so that they know to look for it when they go look in the application. Okay, go ahead and click next. This final screen is a summary screen, and this is something you need to review. So scroll through, make sure everything looks good. You'll notice it does provide you with estimated fees. Again, it's subject to change, but make sure everything looks okay. Yep, everything looks good. And at this point, you can then submit. Now, but let's say you need to verify with your client that do they also want maybe a stove to go with their dishwasher, a new stove. So you got to go out and verify this. So you don't want to lose the work you just entered. So I'm going to go ahead and save it as a draft because I need to come back to it later. So you get out of the application, you come back to it, maybe the next day or a few hours later, your client told you, nope, not interested in a stove, just want the dishwasher. So you go back to you log in, go to your dashboard, you click on your drafts, and you see the drafts that are still waiting on action, as well as the one I just saved as a draft. So I'm going to resume this one. You also have the option to delete it, but in this case, I want to resume. Let's go ahead and resume. Now, when you resume a draft, it starts you at the beginning, but it's for you to review each step along the way so that you can verify that everything is still accurate. So it's just a matter of clicking next through each of the screens just to confirm everything looks good. So I do know that the address hasn't changed, my scope of work hasn't changed, my contacts haven't changed. The custom fields I filled in have not changed. I'm going to go ahead and scroll down to the bottom and click next. I'm not planning to attach anything, so that hasn't changed. And I already know that this is accurate because I've reviewed it once before and I didn't change anything. So I'm just going to click submit. Now, as long as your contractor licenses are up to date and you qualify for obtaining this permit, it'll submit your permit, give you a permit number, and the permit will be in draft mode. The permit techs get 24 to 48 hours to review your draft, approve it, and then they'll invoice you the fees. Once they invoice you the fees, you can pay for your permit, and then after you've paid for it, you can immediately print it out. Okay, so that's your application for a standalone permit. But let's say you are applying for a sub-permit to a master building permit number. The first thing you have to do is you need to query up your master building permit. So go to search, and type in the building master number that you want to obtain the subpermit on. Okay, so I want to pull the permit, my subpermit on this building master. So I'm going to select the building. I'm going to double check that this is the correct one. So I'm going to expand this blue area at the top by clicking on the little arrow in the top right-hand corner of the blue area. It is a deck. That's what I wanted. I'm going to go down here where next to summary is location. I want to make sure this is the correct location. Yep, that's the correct address. So now I want to actually pull the permit. So if I scroll over to the right here, there is a tab called Subrecords. That's the one I want. You'll notice I have no subpermits already existing, and there's several that are remaining that I can select from. I'm pulling lights for this deck. So I'm the electrical contractor, and I'm going to select the residential addition, and I'm going to select apply. And you'll notice a couple of things are already filled in for you when you apply off of the building permit. One of those things is the address. So it copied the address from the master building to your subpermit for you, so you don't have to search for it. Just double check again that it's the correct one. Click next. It already filled in the permit type for you, and it already filled in the scope of work. Copies what was on the building permit down to the trade. You can add to it. Maybe you can write down here, add 5 lights or something of that nature to describe what work you're actually doing. And the deck is rather small, and it's going to cost me $500 valuation. You have to fill in the square footage and valuation because those are required fields. They have the little red star next to them. Click next. Here's another cool feature. You don't have to, it puts you in as a contractor by default, but it also copies down the contacts that are on the building permit down to the trade. So the stuff, people like the owner, lien agent, and maybe a tenant or whatever will copy down from the building permit down to the trade. You can also add additional people. So let's go ahead and go to authorized agent. And I'm going to go to my favorites because I know good old John's in there. And I'm going to add John. That was quick and easy, right? Once all the people are copied down or entered in as you wish. Oh, by the way, you'll notice I can also remove any of these contacts. The only one I can't remove is myself. Okay, click next. It already fills in the permit name for you, and then you need to fill in the code year and code book and any of the other requirements that are necessary. In this case, I'm going to put in 5 light fixtures for this deck. You fill in whatever fields are necessary. Click next. Again, I don't have any attachments, but if you do attach something, please make sure to contact building development. Click next. This is my summary of everything I filled in. Just double check so you can see, gives me estimated fees. Looks good, everything looks good. I think I'm ready to submit. So let's go ahead and hit submit. And again, as long as you qualify, you'll be getting a permit number. It'll go in as draft, and then the building development has 24 to 48 hours to process it, and you'll be notified when it's ready for payment. And once you've paid, you can print it out. So let's say that you install residential dishwashers quite a bit, or you replace residential dishwashers on a regular basis. So I want to create a draft or a template. I want to create a template for a residential limited permit for dishwashers, so that I can go to my template and then select it, and it already comes pre-populated for me when I go to apply for that permit. Saves me a whole lot of time. So how do we do that? So the first thing you do is you go back to apply. I want to create a template for a limited residential replacement of a dishwasher. So the first thing you do when you select the permit type you want to create the template for is you do not enter a location, because templates don't get a location until you actually apply for it for real. But instead, scroll down to the bottom on the left, there's a Create Template button. Go ahead and click that and give your template a name. Limited permit for dishwasher. You can call it whatever you want. That's what I'm going to call mine. Saved. Okay. Click OK, and it'll start your template process. It defaults to that permit type that you selected. You enter the scope of work here in the description. Please note that anything that you enter in these fields can be changed when you actually apply for it for real. Okay, I'm going to put in my valuation. I don't require a square foot because there's no star next to it. So click next. Let's say on these type of permits, I'm always adding good old John Doe. So I'm going to go to my favorites and add John. Go next. And then I'm not going to put in a permit name because I'm not actually applying, but I do know that my code book for these types of permits are also IRC, and they're from 2015. And this is a replacement of a dishwasher. So filled in what I wanted on my template, and then I'm going to go into next. You can't save attachments on a template, so I'm going to go next. Scroll through. Looks good, looks good, looks good. All right, I'm going to save my changes. All right, so now let's say a week or two goes by and a customer contacts you wanting you to replace their dishwasher. Okay, great. Let's go do that. So I go to click apply, and then instead of selecting the limited permit right away, I go to show my templates. So when I go to show my templates, oh, it looks like I already had one for a dishwasher. That's good because I can show you how to delete it later. But this is the one I just created, a limited permit for dishwasher. So I'm going to select my template, click apply. And then the first thing I want you to do is add a location. So let's go ahead and add a location. Remember, just street number and street name. Do not enter street type. I'm going to add the location. I'm going to click next. And look, it already has the scope of work, which I can change because I can add more stuff here. And I can change the valuation. Maybe it was less than I thought, only $750. Let's go ahead and click next. It already put in my context. I don't have to add anything there. And it's already filled in most of this. I just have to put in the permit name. And you'll notice it already has my dishwasher entered for me. So I'm going to go ahead and click next. I don't have any attachments, so I'm going to go ahead and click next. And here's my summary. Everything should be, it gives me an estimated fees. Everything should be normal. I haven't changed anything else. Click submit. And how quick and easy was that? Pretty good, huh? So if it's something you apply for on a regular basis with the same type of information, create a template. It'll save you a lot of work. Okay. Now we're going to show you how to pay for your permit. So once the permit staff has reviewed and invoiced your fee on the permit, you'll receive an email that tells you, hey, it's ready for payment. When you log back in, scroll down from your dashboard to where it says My Invoices and click View My Invoices. You'll see every invoice that has been invoiced under your name. Now you can select them all and add them all to your cart, or you can select and pick and choose which ones you want to pay for now and or later. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and pick, let me go ahead and pick this limited, one of these electricals. I'm going to add those two to the cart. Turns out that my limited customer hasn't paid me yet, so I'm going to remove this one out of that cart. Now I'm just going to pay for this electrical. So it's easy enough to remove. You just click on remove. And let's go ahead and check out. It's going to take me to the payment screen where you enter in your credit card information. We hope to, at some point in the near future, allow you to pay for using e-checks. So keep an eye out for that. At the moment, we only accept credit cards. And it defaults to the email that you're logged in as. But I'm going to go ahead and send this receipt to a different email. We'll go ahead and process this payment. And then return back to the Citizen self-service, or otherwise known as ePortal. Now, you'll notice when you scroll back down your screen here, it still shows that I have 6 here that are due. Don't panic. It takes about a minute or two for it to refresh itself and adjust the number and the amount you owe here. So when you come back and check for it in another minute or two, it'll be updated. So now I want to print my permit. The easiest way to do it is to check your active permits, because now that you've paid for it, it is active. And if you happen to know the permit number, you can either search for it at the top here. I believe mine was 137 was the one I just paid for. And here it is. So let's go ahead and open that. And you'll notice now there's a print icon in the top right-hand corner. If you select that, it will open up another tab with the permit that you can then print. We'll come back and look at that in a second, because it takes a second for it to populate. Oh, I think it's ready. Ah, there it is. Now you can print it out. So the next thing I'm going to show you is how to perform inspections. So one of the ways you can perform an inspection is directly on the permit that you have open. So in this example, since this is the one I just printed, let's say I'm ready for an inspection here. I can create the inspection right from the front here, because it does list all of the inspection types here. Or I can go directly to the inspections tab, and I'll show you from there. At the top here, it'll show you any existing inspections. Now, I just paid for this permit, so of course there's no existing inspections. At the bottom section here, these are the inspections you can request. So let's say I'm ready, I'm going to do a concealment inspection. So let's do this one. And then you can click on Request Inspection. And it brings you to the information, the request inspection screen, or the screen for you to fill in what date you want and so forth. Let's go ahead and go back to the dashboard. The other method to request an inspection is by going through your view and clicking on Request Inspections. Now, the benefit of using this method, the request inspection method, or this view, is that you can request multiple inspections from different permits all at the same time. So let's say I want to request a 198 concealment, and remember to put the R for residential, because all our inspection numbers have an R or a C next to them. So let's do, I want to schedule a 198R, or residential combo concealment, on several different building permits. So as you can see, there's some here that are available. And then there's some that have unpaid fees or they aren't issued yet. So I can't schedule inspections on those. What the request inspection screen does is it basically lists all the inspections on every permit that you're associated to. So it's easy to search for the permit here, as well as search for specific inspection types to schedule inspections on. So let's go ahead and pick a couple of these. We'll do this one and this one. And we'll go ahead and say request inspection. So these are the two that I just requested. So let's say I want to request these inspections. Now, I didn't fill out the previous one on the electrical one, so that's not on this list. But let's say I want to request the inspection for tomorrow, 30th, and I'm going to put my name and phone number. Notice that contact name and contact phone are required fields because they have the little red stars. A comment box is not. You can leave a comment there. Can't guarantee the inspector will see it, but it will get put on the inspection in the notes section for them to look at if they happen to go in there and look. Generally, they only go to the notes section to see if they need to contact you, because that's where their phone number would appear, as well as your name. So now I've got this first one filled in, and now I got to fill in the next one, right? Well, if it's going to be on the same date, or if it's going to be the same contact information in the different date, you can select these check boxes and it'll help you fill in information on all the other inspections. So if I check use same date for all and use same field contact for all, it fills that information for me. Saves you time. Now to submit it, you click on the submit button. Now, unfortunately, you can't submit them all at the same time since we don't have a submit all button, but you have to do them individually. So assuming that you haven't reached any inspection limits and there are no prerequisites that need to be completed before you can get this inspection, it should provide you with a signal with a big red check mark, excuse me, a big green check mark that tells you it's ready to go and it's been requested. Then go ahead and do the second one. You don't want to see red because red is bad. All right. So the next thing I'm going to show you is, okay, so what happens if it doesn't go through? How does it look? I'm going to go back up to my view and request inspections. And this time I'm going to request an inspection, or I'm going to try to schedule this 66 wet sprinkler final. And I'm going to show you what it looks like when it doesn't or it doesn't go through. Let's go ahead and fill in the information and hit submit. Again, as long as there's no problems, it should go through, right? Well, let's see if this one, oh no, this one looks like it's got a few issues. Looks like it can't be scheduled because it's missing a bunch of stuff. Looks like it's missing a couple of inspections on its own permit, as well as an underground fire main final and a fire alarm final on 2 other permits. So I can't schedule the 66 sprinkler final because I have some prerequisites. Once these prerequisites are resolved, I can come back and schedule that final. So let's look at one more thing here. Let's look at today's inspections. You go to view, today's inspections. Now I don't have anything scheduled for today. This is a kind of old data. So I'm going to show you from an old date here what it looks like. Okay, so here's a list of inspections that are still scheduled for July 8th of 2019, which is the last date we grabbed this copy of the database. You'll notice that it lists the inspections that are scheduled, along with who the inspector is and what order they're in. So let's say I want to change the sort order to the inspector or to the address. Let's change it to the address. And let's say I live at maybe 10100 Lamont Drive. My inspector is Joe Allen, and oh my gosh, I'm the first one on his list. So I would expect to see him at first thing in the morning. Now, eventually the inspector, if this was a real inspection, you would see estimated start and end times. The inspector would populate that information, and you would get kind of an approximation of what 2-hour period or 3-hour period they'd be showing up at. But in this case, even if the time wasn't listed, I know I'm first on his list. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to show you is some information related to the cases themselves. So I'm going to query up, let me close a few of these tabs, and I'm going to query up a plan and a permit and give you some information on each of the case types that might be of interest to you. So let's query up a plan here, and we'll start with that. The information you see on a plan and a permit are very similar, and even with the code case is very similar. The difference being that you'll see inspections on a permit, which you won't see on plans generally. You'll see reviews on a plan, which you don't see on permits. And in code cases, you're going to see even less. You're not going to see contacts. You're not going to see the details, a lot of the details of the case. You'll see some things. Okay, so when the plan opens up, the top gives you a brief summary of what it is, but you can expand it and see things like the description, square feet, the date it was applied for, who the plan is assigned to, if it is assigned, in some cases it's not, complete date, etc. Status of the plan. Okay, and this first part is the summary. So it's just a brief overview of what the plan, how the progress of the plan. So in this section that says progress, just means that 85% of the workflow has been completed, and some stuff is not started and some stuff is in progress. In the fees section, you'll see any fee that's been invoiced. If the fee has not been invoiced, you'll not see it here. So just because it says 0 doesn't mean you don't owe any fees. It just means those fees have not been invoiced yet. So keep that in mind. Under available actions, these are actions that you as the customer logged in will be able to do. There's not much you can do on a plan. On the permit side, you'll see a lot of inspections listed here. But for a plan, not so much. Okay, so the next thing after summary is location. This is the location of the property that's associated to this plan. So you have the site address and parcel number. And then you have fees. If there were any fees, you would see remaining fees up here. Again, you'd only see the remaining invoiced fees. And then paid fees would be below here. You'll see that better on the permit side because on building cases, the fees go on the permit, not on the plan. We'll skip reviews for a second and go to inspections. You're not going to see any inspections on a plan, at least not on a building plan. So let's go ahead and skip over to attachments. Here are all the attachments on the plan. Generally, these are things like your comment letter, receipts, your paperwork. We'll and in the future, copies of your approved building plans or site plans, if it's a site plan, would be in the attachments. For contacts, these are contacts related to this plan. You'll notice that as a person linked to this case, you can remove people and you can add additional contacts. You can even remove yourself. I'm logged in as Rosa Moran. I can remove myself. The only person I can't remove is the billing contact. But I can remove anybody else on the case as long as I'm associated to this case. I have the authority to do so. Now you're saying, well, why would anybody want to do that? Well, you'd be surprised. Some companies, if they have large turnover of employees, perhaps the owner wants to remove, let's say Janet was leaving the company and I don't want Janet associated to any of my permits anymore. I would then remove Janet or query up all the permits she's linked to, and I could remove Janet and maybe replace her with somebody else. Under subrecords, this would be any permit or plan that is linked to this particular case. In this case, we have a site plan and an address validation case linked to this building plan. If there had been any holds related to this case, it would show up in the holds tab, and any meetings or hearings would show up under the meetings tab. Under more info, you'll see the custom fields of information related to this plan. There's not too much on the building case. It's mostly on the permit case that's linked to it. All right, so that's basically the information on a plan. Oh, wait a minute, got to go to the reviews. That's the important one. So let's click on reviews. Forgot that one. So the nice thing about this new ePortal system is that comments are easier to review and you can export them. So you click on the review tab, and these are the submissions, what versions and so forth and dates. I'm going to change the sort type to the version number because I want the building plan submission, but I want the latest one. So here's the last one. It's submission 4. I want to see the comments related to this one. I'm going to click on that one. And it tells me that the architectural, plumbing, and structural reviewers all had comments. I want to see the architectural reviewers' comments. I'm going to click on that, and it expands down here. Now, they don't have any recommendations, but they do have some corrections. Now, there's some that have been that are not resolved, and some that have been. I want to change my correction or my sort to be the resolved, sort by resolved, because it'll sort the no's ahead of the yeses. So all of my ones that need correction would be at the top, and all the ones that have already been corrected would be below that. So I would recommend you change it to sort order resolved to get all your ones that need resolving at the top. You can also export this list by clicking the export button. Give it a name, maybe the BPR number would be the whatever the number is, and then say OK, and it'll also export as a CSV file for you that you can open and then see your comments in a more like in an Excel spreadsheet. Okay, so now let's go look at a permit and see what the differences are. We're going to go ahead and query up a permit here. I'm going to open it up, and you'll notice there's a lot of similarities. Okay, so again, there's a summary at the top that you can expand. It tells you the district, the description, applied for date, issued date, etc. Again, there's a progress over here, fees, actions. You'll notice there's something there this time because me as the logged in person can request inspections. There's location, just like on a plan. Here are the fees. There's no remaining fees, but again, that only displays fees that are invoiced. So there could be a fee, just not displayed. And then there's fees that you've already paid, and you can see what has already been paid. And then under reviews, there wouldn't be any reviews on a plan because we don't, on a permit, because we don't review, do the reviews on permits. Inspections. So from here, I can do several things. I can see what's already been completed or scheduled, and I can see what needs to be scheduled still or can be scheduled. It doesn't necessarily required, but it's available inspections. You'll notice at the top here, though, one allows me to cancel. You're allowed to cancel any inspection that does not have an actual scheduled date. So in this case, this person requested this date on May 7th, but has not been scheduled yet, so I can still cancel it. You'll notice this other one up here that's already scheduled for the April 27th has already got a scheduled date. I can't cancel it. It's too late. And then there's one that's been rejected. The nice thing about this application is I can select the one that's been rejected, click on it, It'll open up the inspection, and then under the checklist, I can see what the rejected items were on this particular inspection. And under attachments, I could see any attachments that they added, like pictures or your inspection report could be seen here. So here was the checklist items. Let's go back to the permit. So once again, I just want to make sure you understand that you can cancel an inspection as long as there's no scheduled date, but you can't cancel it once it has a scheduled date. Under attachments, you would see any attachments related to this case. In the case of an issued permit, you'll eventually see your issued permit attached. So if you have to reprint it, you don't have to click on the print key. You can go to attachments and get it from there as well. Contacts, same as a plan. I can add or remove people other than the billing contact. Subrecords would contain any of your either issued permits that are related to this one, like electrical, mechanical, and any remaining allowable sub permits. So this is a commercial sign, so you're not going to be able to apply for the sub permits online for a commercial site. But if this was residential, you would see the remaining sub permits down here that you can apply for. This one has apparently a pending building code violation associated with this parcel. So it shows you here that somebody added a hold or a violation, and they just wanted to let people know that there's one out there. There are no meetings or hearings on this permit. And under more info, you'll see the details or the custom fields related to this particular permit. And that's pretty much it. Oh, one more thing I want to go over is your account information. If you go up to the top and select your name, it'll give you a drop-down list where you can quickly jump to your account, your invoices, your businesses, your drafts, your templates. So let's go ahead and go to My Account. Under My Account, it shows you your username and your phone number, including your email, which you can change, and it's the only thing you can change on your account. If you need to change your phone number or you need to change your address, you need to contact Building Development, and they'll update your account information. Under My Favorites, you can see the people you've added to your favorites. You can add additional people to your favorites if you wish. And you can remove people from your favorites. So let's say I don't want John anymore in my favorites. So I can remove John. Under My Businesses, if you are linked to a business, a commercial business that has annual fire inspections performed on them, you can go to My Businesses and check on the status of those annual commercial inspections that the fire marshal's office performs. Under My Templates are the templates that we created that I want to be able to use over and over again. As you can see, I can click Use here and start my application process from here. I can update my template, or I can delete my template. Now I have 2 dishwasher ones, so I'm going to delete at least one of them. So I've just deleted the second dishwasher template because I don't need 2. Under My Drafts are the inspection or the permits that you've saved as drafts that you're going to get back to later. You can either resume or delete them from here as well. And My Certificates shows your license information. So if you've got a state or home improvement contractor's license, you'll be able to see it here, see when they expire, and then do what you need to make sure they're up to date. And that's pretty much it. That concludes the demonstration of how to use the new ePortal system. Thank you for joining me, and if you have any questions, let me know.